Today's lesson is called Wildfires Ravage Australia's Ecosystem. Hello everyone, my name is Jeff.
My name is Roger, and today we're going to talk about something called wildfires. Fires that are burning wildly, and it's very difficult to put them out. Now, I have not heard about wildfires being a big problem here in Taiwan, but you hear about them in the news all the time, especially in California. But recently, there have been some wildfires in Australia, and those fires have ravaged the ecosystem of that continent down under.
How terrible. There are wildfires and they're everywhere, and these wildfires are doing a whole lot of damage to the environment down there in Australia. How terrible. All right, folks, let's go ahead and take a short break, but when we come back, we'll start talking about these wildfires that are ravaging the ecosystem down under.
Wildfires ravage Australia's ecosystem. The huge bushfires that burned across Australia for months affected hundreds of species of animals and caused serious damage to the environment. Some estimates say up to 1 billion animals were killed. The wildfires, which began in June 2019, burned millions of acres, destroying thousands of homes and wiping out entire towns.
大家好，标题中我们看到单字 ravage 这个字是动词，指蹂躏、摧残、严重破坏。例如 A series of natural disasters ravaged the country. 一连串的天灾摧毁了这个国家。另外，这个字也可以当名词，指灾难、灾害，用作词义时常做复数型，像是 The 80-year-old Grand Theatre suffered the ravages of an owner who doesn't care. 拥有80年历史的大剧院因为持有者疏于管理而遭殃。再来，我们看到名词 ecosystem， 意思是生态系，像是 The new law aims to aid in preserving forest ecosystems. 这条新法目的是协助保护森林生态。再来，我们看到单字 estimate， 这个字是名词，指估计、估算。举例来说The estimate to get my car fixed turned out to be more than I could afford. 我的汽车修理费估计超过我的预算。另外，这个字也可以当动词，念作 estimate。我们可以说 The police estimated that there were over 100,000 people in the crowd. 警方估计有超过10万名群众。或是 I estimate that it will take about 6 hours to paint the apartment. 我估算了一下，油漆整间公寓大约需要6小时。
Okay, so I think we all pretty much know what a wildfire is, but here we've got the word ravage, which means to cause a lot of damage to something. And we all know where Australia is, but we're talking specifically about the ecosystem down there, where, plants and animals all have this relationship with each other. They cannot survive without each other.
Anyways, let's get started here. It says the huge bushfires that burned across Australia for months affected hundreds of species of animals and caused serious damage to the environment. Yes, there you go. It caused serious, extensive damage to the environment. It ravaged the environment there. And yes, these are wildfires. You can also call them bushfires. Here we're being kind of specific here. Wildfires kind of do rage uncontrollably. We don't know where they come from, and they kind of burn themselves out in an unpredictable way if we can't intercede. But here very specifically, when we're talking about a bushfire, we're kind of talking about a fire that might start in the undergrowth of a forest. It might catch fire amongst some dry bushes.
Yep, and of course that's what happened in Australia, these big bushfires, and they burned across across Australia for months. This was in the news for quite some time. It seemed that those fires were burning uncontrollably for a very long time. I think they're under control now, and of course, it's starting to be winter in Australia. But during the Australian summer there, it was a big problem, especially for those different kinds of animals. Australia has a lot of animals that are unique to Australia, and you won't find them in other places like kangaroos or wallabies or koalas. Those are different species of animals. Species could also be pronounced species, and that refers to kinds of animals of the same class which can actually reproduce with each other. This was a unique situation to Australia. We talked about the fires, of course, burning trees and destroying people's homes, but we heard more about all these animals that were affected, hundreds of species of animals, and of course they lost their homes and they may not survive into the future. Now, some estimates say up to 1 billion animals were killed. That's a lot. It's very difficult for people to go out into the wild areas of Australia and count all the dead bodies of the animals. So they kind of have to guess. They have some information as to how many animals lived in specific areas of Australia, and they came up with an estimate, which is like an educated guess.
So there you go. We had this ecosystem, and we're pretty sure that it was capable of supporting this many animals. Well, that ecosystem no longer exists. It's been burned to the ground and destroyed by these wildfires. So all of those animals that this ecosystem was supporting, well, they must be dead. When scientists went through and they estimated, they said up to 1 billion animals were killed by these wildfires.
That's right. So my car was damaged in an accident, so I had the mechanic estimate how much it would cost to fix the car. Estimate as the verb, estimate is the noun, so I wanted the mechanic to come up with an estimate. Now, the wildfires, which began in June of 2019, burned millions of acres, destroying thousands of homes and wiping out entire towns. So these fires began almost a year ago, and they were devastating. They ravaged lots of parts of Australia. They burned millions of acres, and they destroyed thousands of homes. Lots of people lost their homes and have to move in with relatives or live in tents or whatever, and entire towns were wiped out, which means they were totally destroyed. Like lots of small towns in Japan were wiped out by the tsunami.
There you go. So there was a town there before, and now it's gone entirely. That town has been wiped off the face of the earth, or you could say that entire towns were wiped out. How sad. All right, everyone, with that, it's time for us to take a short break, but don't go away. We'll be right back after this.
Many animals were killed directly by the flames and smoke. Others had their habitats destroyed, which left them without food, water, or homes. The damage was evident on Australia's cherished Kangaroo Island, a place that is often compared to the Galapagos for its wildlife. After fires swept across the island in January 2020, it is uncertain if its ecosystem will ever recover. At least 25,000 koalas are thought to have died in the fires on Kangaroo Island alone. Roughly half of the population estimated to have lived there. There and elsewhere, a race was on to save koalas and other animals.
第二部分我们看到名词 habitat 指动植物的栖息地、产地。例如 If more houses are built on this land, animals in the area will lose their natural habitat. 若这块地房子越盖越多，这里的动物就会失去它们的自然栖息地。接着我们看到片语 sweep across or through 表示席卷、横扫像是 The floodwater swept through the town center after the river overflowed. 由于那条河泛滥，洪水横扫了镇中心。或是 The terrible storm swept across the nation last week. 上周严重的风暴席卷了整个国家。另外补充一个相关片语 breeze through B-R-E-E-Z-E breeze through 表示快速通过，顺利完成。例如 Donald breezed through the book in 2 days. Donald 2天内就快速看完了这本书。
Okay, so we're talking mostly today about how all those animals were killed in Australia. Yes, we're concerned about the people and the homes that they lost, but of course we are also concerned about those cute animals that Australia is famous for, and many animals were killed directly by the flames and smoke. Yes, that much is certain. When there is a fire, people or animals are probably killed directly by those hot flames. They burn to death, or they die because of all that smoke. If there's so much smoke in the air, there's no good air to breathe, and you'll die from breathing all that smoke.
Okay, you either get burned by the flames or you choke on the smoke and you can't breathe anymore. That's terrible. And it says here, many animals were killed by these things. How often? Now, others didn't die directly. Others had their habitats destroyed, which left them without food, water, or homes. So there you go. They no longer have a place to live. So they're not dead yet, but who knows what's going to happen to them now that their homes, their habitats have been destroyed. They no longer have food, water, or homes, so they might just die as a result. Now, earlier we did talk about an ecosystem. Here we have the word habitat. When we're talking about the habitat of an animal or a plant, we're talking about the natural home of that animal or plant. Okay, certain plants live only in the jungle. That would be their natural habitat.
Right, or the mountains of Taiwan could be the natural habitat of Formosan macaques or the Formosan black bear. That's its habitat. That's where it lives, in the high mountains. And of course, their habitats were destroyed, and as a result, they did not have food, they did not have water, and they did not have homes. So they probably did not survive for long, or maybe some people have to come in and rescue them. The damage was evident on Australia's cherished Kangaroo Island, a place that is often compared to the Galapagos for its wildlife. Okay, so there's an island off the coast of Australia called Kangaroo Island, and it's a cherished place, which means people in Australia really cherish, they really like this place, they really respect it, they want to protect it, etc., etc. And of course, they don't allow a lot of tourists there so that they don't ruin the place. So it's cherished, it's adored, it's loved. They just really like this place and they really are proud of it. So it's a place that's often compared to the Galapagos Islands, which are a group of islands way off the coast of South America, and those islands are home to lots of unique species of animals as well.
Yeah, Charles Darwin came up with the theory of evolution while traveling in the Galapagos Islands. Well, that's not where the idea came from, but that was kind of like the natural lab where he kind of put together the ideas of natural selection and evolution. So yeah, people think the Galapagos Islands are great and wonderful and awesome. Now in Australia, though, people have similar feelings for Kangaroo Island. They want to protect it. They know it's really special. The wildlife there is super important. So yeah, they cherish this island. They love it. They want to take care of it. But yes, this particular island was very damaged by these wildfires. Yeah, after fires swept across the island in January 2020, it is uncertain if its ecosystem will ever recover. So yes, the fires hit Kangaroo Island hard, and maybe Kangaroo Island will never be itself ever again.
Yep, they moved quickly across the island like a broom sweeping the floor. Now, at least 25,000 koalas are thought to have died in the fires on Kangaroo Island alone. Roughly half of the population estimated to have lived there. So 25,000 koalas are estimated to have died there alone, which means on Kangaroo Island itself, not to mention how many other koalas died elsewhere in Australia. And that's roughly or more or less half of the population that is estimated to live on Kangaroo Island. That's a lot of koalas.
Yeah, even though we're estimating here, we still know that that number is quite high. Roughly half, 50% of the population there. Oh man, that's a big number. A very sad state of affairs. Yeah, roughly means about for the most part. Now, there and elsewhere, a race was on to save koalas and other animals. Yeah, these wildfires really were terrible. All right, folks, with that, it's time for us to take a short break, but when we come back, we'll be wrapping up our article on the Australian wildfires.
Also in January, the New South Wales government began feeding hungry animals left homeless by the fires. The operation airdropped thousands of pounds of carrots and sweet potatoes by helicopter. And as recovery efforts like this continue, completing the final estimates on the total damage to Australia's ecosystem will be a challenge, to say the least.
第三部分，我们看到一个单字 operation， 这个字是名词，指军事、救援等行动、活动或手术。举例来说 ，4 days were needed before the rescue operation was complete。救援行动需要4天才会完成。或是 The doctor is performing an operation to remove a tumor from the patient。医生正在执行手术，移除病患身上的肿瘤。另外，这个字除了上面的意思，还可以指运作、营运。我们可以说 The captain is responsible for all aspects of his ship's operation。船长要负责船上各方面的运作。最后，我们看到名词 helicopter， 意思是直升机，像是 Rescue workers used a helicopter to save people in the flooded town。救难人员使用直升机解救淹水城镇的居民。
Okay, to continue now with the final portion of our article for today. It says, also in January, the New South Wales government began feeding hungry animals left homeless by the fires. So that's a state in Australia, New South Wales. That's where Sydney is. And they decided to feed those hungry animals who were made homeless by the fires. And the operation airdropped thousands of pounds of carrots and sweet potatoes by helicopter. That hopefully helped out here. And because it involved all sorts of people and helicopters and things like that, it was an operation, something that was organized and carried out, like a medical operation, for example, if you need to have your tonsils out.
Yeah, kind of an effort with many moving parts that means to achieve something or do something. You can call that an operation. Apparently, they airdropped this food by helicopter. Yeah, helicopter is a flying machine, but it's not an airplane. It's got those blades on top, and they spin, and it can hover in air and stuff like that. That's what a helicopter is.
That's what it is indeed. And be careful. Sometimes they crash, as Kobe Bryant found out a couple of months ago. And as recovery efforts like this continue, completing the final estimates on the total damage to Australia's ecosystem will be a challenge, to say the least. So while we talk about those recovery efforts and while they're continuing, we still have to make these estimates on the total damage. We really don't know how much damage was caused there. They're getting an idea about it. But, of course, it damaged the ecosystem, to say the least, which means we could say more about the damage because there was a lot of it.
Yeah, we wish there were a stronger word, but right here, challenge is the best we can do, to say the least, i.e., oh, yeah, of course it's going to be a challenge. It's going to be much more than a challenge, but that's the only word we have for now. Anyways, folks, with that, it's time for us to take a short break, but don't go away. When we come back, the Chinese teacher will be joining you guys.
各位同学大家好，我是 Hanny。 我们来看今天的文法重点。课文一开始提到烧了好几个月的澳洲森林大火影响了上百种动物物种，焚烧数百万英亩的土地，毁损数以千计的家园等等。那我们这边就来学习相关的数量表达法。好，文中用到 hundreds of， 它是表达数以百计的，好几百的。那么 thousands of 就表示数以千计，好几千的。 millions of 就表示数以百万计，好几百万的。那它们后面都是要接复数可数名词。我们也可以用其他的数量词来表达不同的范围，像 dozens of 表示数十个的，好几打的，或者是 tens of thousands of， 这样就可以表达数以万计，好几万，或者是 hundreds of thousands of 就表示数十万的。好，我们来造个例句。 Tens of thousands of people attended the parade， 有好几万个人参加那场游行。那同学们要特别注意，有时候这些用法呢，它并不代表实际估计的数量，而只是在强调数量非常多。 好，接着读到课文第二部分，有一个句子写到，光是在袋鼠岛就认为至少有25000只的无尾熊死于大火。那这边我们来学习这个表达一般认为怎么样，一般相信怎么样的句型。好，第一个句型是 people think或者是 people believe 加上 that 子句，像 people believe that the drawing is over 500 years old， 一般认为这幅画有超过500年的历史。好，那第二个句型是 it is thought 或者是 it is believed 再加 that 子句，像是 it is believed that the church was built in the 12th century， 一般认为那座教堂是在12世纪建造的。好，那第三个句型呢，就是把那个 that 子句的主词拉出来，然后后面的动词我们是改不定词的形式，就没有 that 子句咯。好，那这个句型是主词加上 be thought 或者是 be believed to 再加原形动词，用来表达说某人或某事物被认为是怎么样的。好，像我们刚刚照第一个例句，那个 people believe that the drawing is over 500 years old， 我们可以把它改写成 the drawing is believed to be over 500 years old， 这幅画被认为是超过500年历史。好，那特别注意的是，当这样的句型呢，我们当中的不定词它要描述的事情，它时间发生的比主要子句还要早，这时候不定词 to be 它要改成不定词完成式，也就是 to have 加 pp， to have 加过去分词。好，像刚刚我们造另外一个例句 It is believed that the church was built in the 12th century， 这个建造的动作呢是更早发生的，所以我们这时候句子要改写成The church is believed to have been built in the 12th century， 这边是 to have been built， 而不是 to be built， 要特别注意。好，那回头来看课文句子，他写说 At least 25,000 koalas are thought to have died in the fires on Kangaroo Island alone。 句中他也是用不定词完成式 to have died， 因为那些无尾熊死于大火，这是更早发生的动作。那我们如果要改写成另外两种句型，那这时候 that 子句的动词就用过去式哦，就会写作 people believe 或者是 it is believed that at least 25,000 koalas died in the fires on Kangaroo Island alone。 好，那么以上今天重点整理，我们回顾今天的单字吧。
Species. Many species of plants are found on the tropical island. Estimate. Can you give me an estimate on how much it costs to build a house here? Cherish. Jerry travels a lot for his job, so he really cherishes the time that he spends with his children. Roughly. Roughly half of the students in the class felt the exam was too difficult. Operation. 6 boats were sent out to sea during the rescue operation. Helicopter. Justin plans to explore the national park by taking a helicopter tour.
Discussion starter starts now!
All right, everyone, now it's time for our discussion starter. Hey, Roger, do you think the Australian bushfires could have been handled differently? Why or why not?
Well, I think the Australian government should have brought in other people from other countries faster. I guess they just didn't realize how fast those fires would spread, and they just didn't think of calling in help from, say, Taiwan or Japan or the United States or Canada. They were certainly willing to go down there and help out. How about you?
Well, in my opinion, Australia handled it well, because in situations like this, when you've got an unprecedented disaster, there's no playbook for how to handle these things. You kind of have to do your best in the situation that you've been given, and it just turns out that yes, the Australians there were given a nasty, unprecedentedly bad situation, so I think they did their best, and for that reason, I think they handled it well. Okay, everyone, with that, today's article is now complete, but as always, we sure hope that you guys have enjoyed reading along with us. Anyways, I'm Jeff.
I am Roger.
See you next time.